You are standing in a room you've never seen before, yet somehow you've been here forever. The walls breathe. The floor hums. And there is a single door, but no one tells you where it leads. They tell you nothing, only that there is a test. And here's the strange part. You've already begun taking it, without knowing. They won't hand you a sheet of paper, nor whisper the questions in your ear. The answers are woven into the way you are living right now. This is the first trick. Real tests hide inside ordinary moments. Most people expect the moment of their great trial to become like the opening of a grand play. Lights up, curtain drawn, a hush falling over the audience. They imagine that somewhere, in the turning of their lives, a clear trumpet will sound, announcing, "This is the test." They think they will be prepared when it comes, that the air will feel different, and the weight of it will press upon their shoulders like a crown. But life, in its infinite wit, prefers subtler disguises. It does not hand you a parchment sealed with wax. It does not call you by name. The test slides into the folds of your day, like rain soaking into the seams of your coat. Quiet, unnoticed, until you are already wet. It will come to you when you are standing in a queue, and someone cuts in front of you. It will arrive in the soft hours before dawn, when you wake from a dream and cannot sleep again, and your thoughts grow restless. It will creep into the way you speak to the waiter, when the service is slow, or the tone you take with a friend when you feel unheard. It will not announce itself. It will slip between your gestures and glances, woven into the smallest motions of living. And the mind, distracted by its grand ambitions, will not recognize that these are the moments in which the measure is being taken. The human tendency is to look for meaning in the spectacular. We want the trial to be something that bends the sky and shakes the earth, something worthy of legend. But the truth is almost disappointing in its simplicity. Life's examinations happen in plain daylight, when no one is watching, and when the stakes seem so small you hardly notice you are choosing at all. You imagine the question will be written in fire, but it is whispered in the gentlest of breezes, and only those who are listening hear it. And here is the curious thing. Because the test is always happening, there is no interval, no waiting period before it begins. You cannot say, "I will prepare, and then I will face it," for in the very moment you say it, you are already in the middle of it. The way you speak, the way you pause, the way you respond to the slow turning of events, all of it is part of the answer you are giving. Your life is not a rehearsal for the examination. Your life is the examination. The stage has no backstage, no hidden curtain where you can catch your breath. What makes this so unsettling is that you realize there is no external judge marking your paper. There is no committee hidden behind the veil, tallying your virtues and vices. The test is not being conducted by anyone outside of you. It is self-administered in every breath, every choice, every heartbeat. You are both the subject and the observer, the examined and the examiner. And perhaps that is why it feels so difficult, because there is no lying to yourself without knowing it. We imagine there will be time, that the real decisions will arrive later, after we have gathered more wisdom, more courage, more strength. But that later never comes. The smallness of the moment deceives us, and we pass over it as if it were of no consequence. Yet the door to everything you seek is hidden in these unremarkable instants. The universe is watching, not from above, but from within, leaning closer, to see how you will treat what you believe does not matter. For it is in these moments, quiet and unlit, that your spirit reveals itself, not to the world, but to itself. And in that revelation, the secret test is already underway. Imagine for a moment that you are walking through a vast and silent forest. The air is thick with the scent of moss and rain. You step carefully over roots that twist like sleeping serpents, your footsteps muffled by the wet earth. Then, without warning, you notice something strange. Every tree you pass is not merely bark and branch. It is a mirror. At first, you see only your reflection as you know it, the familiar outline of your face, your body moving through the green light. But as you look closer, the mirrors begin to show something else. Not the shape of you, but the state of you. The fatigue in your eyes, the tension coiled in your shoulders, the quiet storms gathering in your mind. It is unsettling at first to see yourself like this, not as an image for others, but as an energy, a presence. These mirrors care nothing for your name, your titles, your accomplishments. They do not flatter you with your best angles. They show you the tone of your being, the quality of the space you bring into the world. And you realize, with a kind of slow shock, that every person you meet, every circumstance you enter, is also a mirror in disguise. They reflect back the energy you are offering, whether you see it or not. You may think you are moving through the world, shaping it according to your will, but in truth, the world is moving through you, shaping you by what it returns. When you speak, your words ripple outward, touching the air, the ears, the hearts of others. But they also ripple inward, echoing in the cavern of your own being. When you act, you think you are changing the outer landscape, but you are also planting seeds in the soil of your own soul. Every choice is a mirror, every consequence a reflection. There is a kind of mercy in this, and a kind of ruthlessness. Mercy, because the world will always show you exactly where you are without deception. Ruthlessness, because it will not spare you the truth. If there is anger in you, it will be met with anger. If there is kindness, it will be returned in kind. Life does not grade you according to the masks you wear. It grades you according to the vibration beneath the mask. And here lies the hidden element of the test. You cannot pass it by pretending. You cannot charm the examiner or speak your way into a better score, because you are the examiner. You may fool the world for a time, but the reflection never lies to itself. The anger you hide still shapes the air around you. The love you deny yourself still withers in the shadows, waiting to be seen. The test is not about performing goodness. It is about embodying it. Not about appearing wise, but being willing to see where you are not. If you watch closely, you will see how every day you are being handed mirrors. Some in the form of people, others in the form of events. The friend who interrupts you mid-sentence. The stranger who holds the door for you when you least expect it. The disappointment that shatters your plans. The moment of laughter that arrives without warning. All of them are invitations to see yourself more clearly, not as a character in a story, but as a living current moving through the river of this world. And as you walk through this forest of mirrors, you begin to understand something profound. The test is not asking you to change the reflection. It is asking you to change the source. For when you change the way you are being, the mirrors cannot help but change too. In that way, the world is not against you. It is you, always you, speaking to yourself through the eyes of everything that exists. At first, this whole arrangement feels deeply unfair. We are born into a world of endless questions and no clear answers, expected to navigate a maze we did not design, in a language we are only just beginning to understand. And when we finally discover that life is testing us constantly. In every choice, in every moment, we instinctively believe we must fight our way to victory. We are taught from childhood to tighten our grip, to plan for every contingency, to push harder, to prove ourselves worthy. The world, we are told, belongs to those who refuse to yield. And yet, the more we struggle, the heavier everything becomes. We grip the wheel until our knuckles turn white, and still the road bends away from us. We pull at the rope, and it only knots tighter. We try to force the door open, and the hinges vanish into thin air. Somewhere deep inside, an ancient truth whispers, the more you try to win this test, the more it eludes you. You begin to notice the patterns. The moments when your plans dissolve into dust. The times when you wrestle against the current until you are breathless, only to find yourself carried back to the same quiet place you began. There is a strange lesson here, one that feels almost like a trick. The way through is not to conquer, but to surrender. Not to overpower life, but to move with it. Think of the river. It does not fight its way to the sea. It wins, it bends, it swells and narrows. It tumbles over rocks. It rests in still pools, and yet, without a moment's doubt, it arrives. Not because it forced its way forward, but because it trusted the pull that was already guiding it. The river does not measure itself against the mountains. It does not scold itself for the detours. It simply flows. We have been conditioned to think surrender means defeat. But there is another kind of surrender, the kind that is not resignation, but awakening. It is the surrender of the sailor to the wind, not giving up the journey, but allowing the wind to carry them farther than their own muscles ever could. It is the surrender of the seed to the soil, not abandoning growth, but trusting the darkness to transform it. Passing this part of the test requires a different kind of strength, one that does not show itself in clenched fists or gritted teeth. It is the strength to loosen the jaw, to soften the gaze, to release the need for control, and let life move you where it will. It is the courage to stop demanding that the moment be other than it is, to let the rain fall without cursing the clouds, to walk in the fog without needing to see the road ahead. You begin to realize that this surrender does not make you weaker. It frees the energy you once wasted on resistance. And in that freedom, something miraculous happens. You can hear the noise of your own struggle quiets, and in its place, the soft music of life returns. You notice the opportunities hidden in what you once called obstacles. You see the beauty in detours. You recognize that every delay, every change of plan, was not a punishment, but a redirection toward what you truly needed. And so, the test is not about whether you can hold your ground against the tide. It is about whether you can let go enough to be carried into a wider ocean. Not to drift aimlessly, but to remember that you are part of the current itself. When you surrender in this way, you discover that the sea you feared was never separate from you. You were water all along. If you stay still long enough, if you resist the urge to rush toward the next distraction, you will begin to see the edges of the illusion soften. The walls of that strange room you thought you were trapped in begin to shimmer, as though they are made of something less solid than you believed. They breathe, they ripple, and then, without any dramatic sound or fanfare, they simply dissolve. The lines between inside and outside blur until they are meaningless. The floor beneath you feels less like a prison and more like the surface of a dream. The door you have been struggling to find, pushing at invisible locks, straining against imagined bolts, was never locked at all. In fact, it was never even a door. It was simply another part of the scenery you mistook for reality. You see now that there was never an examiner in the shadows waiting to pass or fail you. There was no one judging your worth from above. The only weight pressing upon you was the weight of your own assumptions. It dawns on you, slowly at first, like the first hint of dawn through heavy fog. The test was never outside of you. It was placed in the architecture of your thoughts, in the habits of your perception, in the stories you tell yourself about what is possible and what is not. The real walls were made of belief. Belief that you must earn love. Belief that you must reach some distant milestone before you are allowed to rest. Belief that there is a moment in the future when life will finally begin. And here is the beautiful, bewildering part. Once you see this clearly, the game changes entirely. You realize that the test is not about collecting perfect answers, but about recognizing the invisible questions you have been asking all along. Questions like, what must I do to be enough? What must I control to feel safe? How much must I know before I can trust? These questions have been shaping your world more than any so-called fate or destiny. In this space of seeing, you begin to notice the patterns of postponement. How many times have you told yourself, when this is over, then I will live? How many sunsets have you ignored because you were saving your attention for something bigger, more important? How many moments of love have been delayed because you were waiting for the right time, the right mood, the right security? And now you understand the quiet cruelty of it. The right time never comes. There is no moment in the future more real than the one you are standing in now. The only place love can be given is here. The only breath you can truly breathe is this one. The only step you can take is the one under your foot. The test ends not when you pass, but when you stop waiting to begin. The strange room disappears because it was never a room at all. It was a habit of mind. The door vanishes because you were never locked out. You only believed you were. The examiner fades because there was no one else there in the first place. And in that stillness, you realize you are free, not because you escaped, but because there was never a cage to escape from. This freedom is not the grand victory you imagined. It does not arrive with trumpets. It does not feel like a medal hung around your neck. It feels quieter, simpler, almost embarrassingly plain. It feels like waking up in your own bed and recognizing it as paradise. It feels like breathing without effort. It feels like laughing at the fact that you ever thought you needed permission to be here. The test, it seems, was not about proving your worth. It was about remembering that you never had to. And then, as if the whole thing had been some cosmic joke, told with infinite gentleness, the final truth reveals itself. You cannot fail. The words arrive not as a shout, not as a proclamation carved into stone, but as a soft, knowing that moves through you like warm light. It is not the smug reassurance of someone telling you everything will be fine. It is the deeper realization that there was never anything to lose in the first place. You cannot fail, not because you are flawless, but because the nature of this strange test is that every so-called failure contains the seed of its own answer. Every stumble becomes part of the dance. Every wrong turn ends up taking you where you needed to go. Even the moments you regret, especially those, are written into the tapestry with a precision you could not see at the time. The thread of your mistakes is not a flaw in the fabric. It is part of the pattern. It is humbling to see this, because you realize how much energy you've spent fearing the moment you might get it wrong. You've been holding your breath for years, waiting for the verdict to come in, waiting for the scales to tip against you. And yet here is life, leaning close with a mischievous smile, whispering, there was no verdict. There was only the journey. The weight you've been carrying was of your own making, and it melts the moment you set it down. Passing, as it turns out, is not about collecting gold stars or reaching some sacred summit. It is about seeing each moment, this one, and this one, and this one, as the real thing. Not a rehearsal. Not a stepping stone. The test is this breath you are taking now. It is the way you meet the stranger who crosses your path. It is in the choice to forgive before there is an apology. It is in the quiet decision to love without making it a transaction. You start to see that life has been extraordinarily patient with you. It has allowed you to try and fail, to wander and return, to close your eyes and open them again. It has let you replay the same lessons until you could finally see them, not as punishments, but as gifts. And in this patience, there is an incredible freedom. Nothing is wasted. The days you thought were lost were simply part of the weaving. The seasons of confusion were seasons of planting, and now you begin to notice the first shoots breaking the surface. And perhaps most astonishing of all, you realize that the examiner you feared is smiling, because the moment you become aware that you are taking the test is the very moment you have passed it. Awareness is the only qualification. To see is to arrive. The rest is simply the unfolding of what you already are. This understanding does not make life easier in the way you might have hoped. The challenges do not vanish. The moments of doubt still come. But something fundamental shifts. You no longer measure yourself against an impossible standard. You begin to meet each moment with curiosity instead of dread. You see the beauty in the cracks, the poetry in the detours, the grace in your own imperfection. And so, the journey continues. Not as a desperate race to prove yourself, but as a walk through a living dream. You begin to notice the colors more vividly, the sounds more sweetly. You find that even the ordinary feels holy. The test, as it turns out, was never about reaching the end. It was about waking up to the fact that you were already here, and once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can only keep walking, keep breathing, keep loving, knowing, at last, that you were free all along.